Judge Valenzuela,
Yes.
about your work with the you were the National Vice President, Director of Litigation of the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund from 2006 to 11, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Were you there when this organization opposed Miguel Estrada for the D.C. Circuit, or was that before?
I don't recall that happening
Okay.
during my tenure.
Okay. You were counsel in cases Martinez versus Regent of the University of California, arguing that illegal immigrants should be given in-state tuition. Is that correct?
That was the issue in that case, correct?
Yeah. And you opposed non-resident U.S. citizens being given that status. Is that correct?
I don't think we opposed non-resident citizens getting that benefit.
Okay. In Chamber of Commerce versus Whitting, you opposed the E-Verify system to identify a person's immigration status in Arizona. Is that correct?
In all of the immigration cases that MALDEF brought at that time, Senator, what MALDEF was litigating was the issue of whether the states had the authority to regulate immigration law. And our argument was that states and local jurisdictions do not, that only Congress has the right to regulate immigration.
So it was just about the role of the state versus Congress, right?
It was about preemption.
Okay. So in Coral Construction versus San Francisco, you argued in support of a San Francisco contracting scheme which granted a 5 to 10% discount on bids received by minority and women-owned businesses for contracting projects. Is that correct?
Senator, I know that I listed that case on the SJQ. I don't think I signed that brief. I don't recall the issues in that case.
You don't remember that case?
I don't.
Okay. Were you involved in Ritchie versus DeStefano, DESTEFANO, where you argued in favor of bending written exams for firefighters that produced a disparate impact on minority candidates?
Again, that case was, I think that MALDEF did file an amicus brief in that case, if I remember correctly. But I did not sign the brief as far as I recall.
Do you agree with that idea?
What idea?
The organization that you're a member of apparently provided an amicus brief in this litigation, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with the position stated in the amicus brief that you shouldn't have written exams for firefighters? That's all right. Have you heard of California Immigrant Youth Justice Alliance?
No.
You never heard of that?
No.
That's not a program that MALDEF is involved in, houses and supports? You've never heard of it?
I don't know what MALDEF does now. I haven't been there for 13 years, 15 years.
This has been around for a while, so you don't know anything about it?
I don't.
It says, well, their manifesto is to abolish ICE. Are you for abolishing ICE?
No, Senator.
Okay. The United States? I mean, this is the manifesto of this group.
I would not agree with that statement,
Okay,
Senator.
all right. But you don't know anything about this, I guess, is your testimony, right?
I don't.
Okay.
That's
fair enough.
correct.
Okay. Judge Netburn, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about a case you had, I think, involving, get my facts right, the transfer of a person, a female, male who became biological male. Does this ring a bell?
Yes, I know which case you're referring
Okay.
to. It was a habeas petition.
Yeah, and it was somebody who had been convicted in '94 for raping a child and a male child and raping a 17-year-old female they served their sentence, they got out, they were convicted of distributing child pornography. The biological male transitioned into being a female, and the Bureau of Prisons objected to the person going into the female system. Do you remember all that?
I do, Senator.
Okay. And you basically ruled in favor of the petitioner, saying that the Bureau of Prisons' concerns about the intimidation and the threat to female inmates was theoretical. Is that right?
Thank you, Senator. In that habeas petition, I issued a report and recommendation which was based on the facts that were presented to me. Those facts included statements from the 3 wardens who supervised this petitioner, all 3 of whom recommended that the petitioner be transferred to a women's facility because of her serious medical needs. And
Well,
the Bureau of Prisons,
The Bureau of Prisons opposed this transfer, right?
well, the wardens who were directly
No, the Bureau of Prisons opposed this transfer, right?
correct, which is why the petitioner brought a habeas petition.
Right. So now I'm over time, but I'll wrap it up. The bottom line here is that the concern of the Bureau of Prisons is that a biological male transitioning to a female with a history of sexual violence would be intimidating and threatening to the female population. You thought that to be a theoretical concern because the person in question had attacked male and female people. Is that right?
That's not correct, sir.
That's what you said.
I based my report and recommendation on the record evidence before me.
So you think the concerns of the Bureau of Prison that someone with a violent past regarding sexual assaults would not be threatening and intimidating a biological male transitioning to female? You just don't believe that's a legitimate concern?
Let me be very clear, sir. The crimes for which the petitioner was convicted of 30 years ago are abhorrent, and the petitioner was convicted by an Indiana state court and sentenced.
Well, she was convicted of assaulting a child, raping a 17-year-old woman, got out of prison, and was convicted of child pornography afterwards, transitioned from a male to a female, and the Bureau of Prisons said, we do not believe this person should be in a female prison, and you thought those concerns were theoretical. Is that fair?
I based my decision on the record before me.
You want to finish your statement?
Thank you, Chair Durbin. I based my decision on the record before me. The record was that the 3 wardens who had supervised the petitioner all recommended transfer. The petitioner had had no disciplinary issues at all during her time in federal custody. She had never engaged in any violence and, in fact, had been the victim of sexual violence while in a male facility. And the Bureau of Prisons' longtime treating medical provider also testified during a 2-day hearing before me, who recommended that the petitioner be transferred because of her serious medical needs. I recommended that the district judge adopt my recommendation based on Estelle versus Gamble and Turner versus Safley. The district judge adopted my report and recommendation, and the government did not move for a stay.
Thank you. Senator Hirona?